For bikers just took my wife. I'm staring at empty security footage, my coffee mug shattered on the kitchen floor, and my whole world just collapsed in 30 seconds. The HOA president hired them over a damn fence dispute. Catherine thinks she's dealing with some pushover suburban dad who will cave under pressure. But here's what this neighborhood Karen doesn't know. I have a very particular set of skills from my previous life. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like this. These amateur thugs have no idea, they just woke up something they can't handle. My hands have stopped shaking. This is about to get biblical. I thought I'd left all the crazy behind when Olivia and I moved to Maplewood Estates. 20 years of Delta Force operations from Afghanistan to classified missions I still can't talk about. All I wanted was to grow tomatoes and grill burgers in peace. My wife Olivia understood what I needed: normalcy, routine, a chance for my brain to stop scanning every room for threats. But our new neighbor, Catherine Baker, the HOA president, decided my 8-foot privacy fence violated the community's 6-foot regulation. I sent a polite email explaining that several other fences exceeded the limit and requested a meeting. What I got back was a $500 violation notice and a demand to comply immediately. That's when I realized Catherine wasn't your typical suburban Karen. Every morning at exactly 6 a.m., she'd appear in my front yard with a 12-inch ruler, measuring my fence like she was conducting scientific experiments. Picture this: a 55-year-old woman in a power suit, crawling around on her hands and knees at dawn, photographing my fence from 17 different angles. My neighbor Laura Hull pulled me aside one morning. "Andrew, I've never seen her act this crazy about anyone else's violations. It's like she's got a personal vendetta against you specifically." The community meeting was where things went off the rails. Catherine showed up with a full PowerPoint presentation titled Neighborhood Standards Violations, complete with professional photographs. She had pictures of me helping our elderly neighbor carry groceries labeled as unauthorized solicitation. Photos of me washing my car marked as excessive water waste. But I had prepared my own surprise. My buddy Alex Morrison, former Delta Force teammate and private investigator, had helped me document every fence violation in our paradise. My presentation was titled HOA Compliance Audit. Catherine's own fence. 8.2 feet, the board president's fence. 7.8 feet, Catherine's best friend's decorative monstrosity. 8.5 feet, my final slide showed total accumulated fines based on Catherine's enforcement standards. $73,000 owed by current board members. You should have seen her face when that number flashed on screen. Pure rage flickering behind that fake community leader smile. "Those are different circumstances," Catherine stammered, her laser pointer shaking. Laura Hull called out loud enough for everyone to hear. "Different how? The code doesn't say except for board members." But what really bothered me wasn't her double standards. It was the way she looked at me throughout that meeting. Like she knew something I didn't. Normal HOA presidents get embarrassed when caught breaking rules. Catherine stared at me with cold calculation that made every combat instinct start sending warning signals. After the meeting, Alex pulled me aside. "Something's not right about Catherine. I've been digging into her finances. She's living way above what an HOA president's salary should allow. Either she's independently wealthy, or she's got income streams that don't show up on public records." That night, I was checking locks for the third time when I saw Catherine standing across the street at 2 a.m., just watching our house. Not hiding, just standing there staring directly at our bedroom window. When our eyes met through the curtain, she didn't look surprised. She smiled, this slow, knowing smile, then calmly walked away. The text message I got the next morning changed everything. "Marcus always said you'd bring trouble wherever you went. Some lessons need to be taught twice." Marcus. Colonel Marcus Baker, my former commanding officer, the man whose illegal orders I'd refused to follow 15 years ago. But how did some anonymous caller know about that classified court-martial? The coffee mug slipped from my fingers and shattered. Olivia came running, took one look at my face, and immediately knew we'd crossed from suburban drama into something much more dangerous. That's when Catherine's Real plan kicked into high gear. She'd hired the Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club, 4 guys who specialized in intimidation throughout the tri-state area. Derek "Razor" Hayes, the club president, was former Army infantry dishonorably discharged for insubordination. His crew, Tony "Tank" Parker, Rico "Bones" Valdez, and Jake "Diesel" Williams. Derek's research on me was laughably amateur. This genius spent hours studying my fitness website, looking at client testimonials, completely missing that my military records were classified at levels he'd never heard of. Just some CrossFit trainer playing tough guy, he told his crew. 4 of us can handle one suburbanite who teaches soccer moms how to lift weights. The Iron Wolves intimidation campaign escalated beautifully. Day 1. Derek rode past solo, revving his Harley. Day 2. Derek and Tony parked across the street, openly staring through binoculars. Day 3. The full 4-man crew circled our house 3 times with synchronized engine revving. Day 4 brought the full Sons of Anarchy aesthetic. 4 Harleys lined up, engines idling, leather vests with Iron Wolves patches. Day 5 brought the phone call. "Nice family you got there, trainer," the voice said, rough and confident. "We think accidents happen to people who don't cooperate with community standards." I almost laughed. There's a difference between actual threat assessment and street theater. These guys were putting on a performance for someone who'd spent 20 years dealing with people who could kill quietly and efficiently. But they were threatening Olivia. That changed everything. Derek and Tony decided to make their personal appearance. 2 Harleys pulled up at exactly 2 p.m., prime time for maximum neighborhood visibility. Dramatic engine shutdown, slow dismount like they were in an action movie. "Andrew Robinson," Derek called out. "We need to chat about your compliance issues." I stepped outside in my standard suburban dad uniform. Khakis, polo shirt, reading glasses. Perfect camouflage. Derek looked me up and down, seeing exactly what he expected. Middle-aged guy gone soft. "This should take about 5 minutes, he muttered to Tony. What Derek didn't see was how my stance had shifted to combat ready, how my eyes were cataloging his knife placement, Tony's dominant hand, potential weapons, escape routes. 20 years of tactical training don't disappear because you're wearing khakis. "We represent certain business interests regarding your neighborhood compliance," Derek said. "Which business interests would those be?" I asked, genuinely curious. Derek's face flushed red. He wasn't used to targets who asked follow-up questions. I started asking casual questions about his military experience, using specific terminology only someone with actual combat knowledge would know. Derek got increasingly uncomfortable as he realized I wasn't just some civilian. "Look, just fix your fence and we'll forget this conversation," Derek finally said, backing toward his bike. "And if I don't?" I asked, actually smiling. Derek's voice cracked slightly. "Let's just say your family might need better security." That's when the Suburban Dad Act officially ended and Andrew Ghost Robinson started planning Derek's education in the difference between street theater and actual warfare. Alex discovered Catherine wasn't just running neighborhood power trips. She was operating a full-scale real estate manipulation scheme. Shell companies, property acquisitions at below-market prices, systematic harassment using HOA authority, and bribed officials. 47 families displaced over 4 years. $8.2 million in profit through fraud disguised as community improvement. Laura's revelation made everything personal. Catherine approached me wanting to buy my corner lot. When I refused, suddenly I had foundation violations that cost $12,000 to fix. My husband almost had a heart attack from the stress. Other neighbors shared similar stories. But here's what got my attention. Catherine had asked specific questions about my military service when we first moved in. Questions that seemed innocent, but now felt like reconnaissance. "She seemed to already know you were Delta Force before you told anyone," Laura mentioned casually. "How does a random HOA president know classified military information? Normal people don't research Pentagon databases for fun." Derek called me directly. "Lady wants a meeting tomorrow. Says you'll understand when she mentions Baker." My phone nearly slipped. Colonel Marcus Baker, the man who'd ordered me to target civilian infrastructure in Afghanistan. The illegal order that ended my career when I refused. The court-martial was classified at levels most people never hear about. The pieces fell into place with terrifying clarity. Catherine's obsessive focus wasn't random Karen behavior. It was targeted harassment by someone who knew exactly who I was. Her expensive lifestyle, systematic property scheme, knowledge of classified proceedings, this wasn't some power trip. This was organized, methodical, and personal. I started treating it like a combat operation. Hidden surveillance cameras, GPS tracking on Olivia's car, weapons inventory in the garage, escape routes mapped, neighbors briefed on emergency procedures. Olivia watched me slip back into operator mode. This wasn't PTSD, this was tactical preparation. Derek's crew was getting restless. Rico complained, this suburbanite isn't backing down like the others. Their desperation was making them sloppy. I was monitoring their communications through electronic surveillance that would be illegal if I were civilian. 20 years of Delta Force had taught me skills that don't disappear. Catherine's desperation became obvious. The gentle approach failed. She told Derek during their final meeting. I need results in 48 hours. Take his wife somewhere he can't find her until he signs those papers. Derek hesitated. Lady, this is getting heavy. Are you sure about this? Catherine's expression hardened. Derek, do you know what happens to soldiers who refuse direct orders? I learned from my ex-husband that some people only understand force. After Derek left, Catherine opened her desk drawer and pulled out an old military photograph. A younger version of herself standing next to a uniformed officer. There in the background, a face I was beginning to recognize. She stared at that photo for a long time, her fingers tracing the edges. The expression wasn't just anger. It was pure calculated hatred festering for years. When Olivia's GPS tracker started moving toward the warehouse district at 6:15 p.m., when her phone went straight to voicemail, when I realized Derek's crew had escalated to federal kidnapping, 20 years of suburban dad life ended instantly. Ghost was back. The kidnapping was comically bungled. Olivia was leaving school after parent conferences when Derek and Tony approached on foot. Ma'am, we need you to come discuss your husband's situation, Derek said, trying to sound professional. When Olivia tried to get in her car, Tony blocked the door. Just a friendly conversation, lady. My wife reminded these idiots why I'd spent months teaching her self-defense. Olivia pulled out pepper spray and got Tony directly in the face from 3 feet. He staggered backward, cursing and half-blind while Olivia screamed help. Kidnapping. Loud enough for the entire parking lot to hear. Derek panicked as witnesses pulled out phones. Tony, furious and barely able to see, grabbed Olivia and shoved her toward Rico's van. What was supposed to be simple intimidation became restraint and abduction with multiple eyewitnesses and video evidence. My phone buzzed with the GPS alert. 3 rings straight to voicemail. 6 more calls, same result. Every instinct I developed in 2 decades of hunting terrorists and rescuing hostages activated simultaneously. I moved through our house like I was clearing a building in Fallujah, retrieving tactical gear from hidden caches. Night vision goggles, combat knife, body armor, communication equipment, hardware suburban dads aren't supposed to own. Alex arrived as I was loading equipment. Olivia's been taken. I told him, my voice completely calm in that way that happens when training overrides emotion. I'm going dark for 90 minutes. The warehouse district was exactly what you'd expect from amateur criminals. Abandoned buildings, broken street lights, no security cameras. I used surveillance drone for reconnaissance, identifying heat signatures. For people inside, 1 restrained in a chair. A professional approach requires patience and systematic execution. I cut power to the building, giving myself night vision advantage. Infiltration through the skylight required rope work I hadn't used since Afghanistan, but muscle memory is beautiful. Rico never heard me coming. Approached. From his blind spot, taser from behind, dropped silently. Jake was distracted by motorcycle maintenance, didn't notice the sleeper hold that rendered him unconscious in 8 seconds. Tony heard Jake's tools clatter, came to investigate with a flashlight that made him a perfect target. I dropped from the ceiling, applied pressure points that shut down his nervous system. Derek found himself alone, frantically waving his flashlight, while Olivia sat zip-tied to a chair. You could smell his panic when he realized his entire crew had vanished without sound. Step away from my wife. Now. My voice came out of darkness with night vision, giving me complete situational awareness, while Derek waved his flashlight like he was camping. Who the hell are you? He shouted, pulling a knife with shaking hands. Someone who spent 20 years hunting people like you in much more dangerous places. I replied, moving through darkness with tactical precision. When he lunged with that knife, I demonstrated why Delta Force operators train in blade combat. Disarmed him, controlled the weapon, put his own knife to his throat in 3 seconds of fluid motion. Jesus Christ, you're not just some trainer. Derek gasped, finally understanding he'd brought a motorcycle club to a special forces fight. Catherine said you were just a gym teacher. She never mentioned actual military. What exactly did Catherine tell you to do? I asked, keeping that knife positioned where Derek would remember this conversation forever. Just scare you into selling. Hold your wife for a few hours until you sign papers. Nobody said anything about fighting special forces. When police arrived, Derek was desperate enough to confess everything. I'll tell you everything. Catherine Baker planned this whole thing. She's running a property scam, displacing dozens of families. She paid me specifically to target you. As FBI agents led Derek away, he shouted one last revelation. She said you'd remember Afghanistan. Something about payback for destroying her husband's career. 3 days later, FBI agent Rogers showed me Derek's full confession transcript. She paid extra when she found out his real name. Andrew Robinson destroyed my husband's military career. Now I destroy his civilian life. Alex's database search confirmed what I suspected. Catherine Baker was Catherine Marcus, her maiden name after divorce that stripped away her identity. Military base photos showed younger Catherine at social events, standing proudly next to Colonel Marcus Baker in dress uniform. The picture of military wife success. But the dates corresponded exactly with my court-martial, locations matched classified proceedings. This woman's entire life had been destroyed by her husband's disgrace. She'd been planning this revenge for 15 years. Agent Rogers spread evidence across his desk. Catherine's laptop revealed spreadsheets titled Acquisition Targets, with my house labeled Priority Alpha. Personal Marcus Revenge plus $580,000 flip potential. But the scope went far beyond personal vendetta. Similar harassment campaigns against other military families across 5 states, systematically targeting veterans who'd stood up for integrity. 47 families displaced, $8.2 million in fraudulent acquisitions, all financed by hatred that had metastasized into organized crime. You destroyed my husband's career, Catherine screamed when FBI agents arrested her at the community meeting, her polished facade cracking completely. 20 years of marriage gone because you couldn't follow simple orders. I had to rebuild from nothing. The entire neighborhood watched their trusted community leader lose her mind in public, ranting about military honor and classified operations. Your precious morals cost me everything. So I made 47 families pay the price for your righteousness. That's when I understood the true scope. Marcus Baker's illegal order to target civilian infrastructure wasn't just abstract military ethics violation. It was part of war crimes that would have made international headlines if soldiers like me hadn't refused to participate. The FBI investigation revealed Catherine had been systematically targeting veterans involved in similar ethics violations, using property harassment to destroy civilian lives, just like their integrity had destroyed her military wife identity. Catherine's sentencing was everything you could hope for. 15 years federal prison, full restitution to victims, RICO charges, asset forfeiture, leaving her with nothing. Derek and crew faced federal kidnapping charges with no parole possibility. But Agent Rogers revealed the deeper truth during our final briefing. We've traced her network to 12 other military communities nationwide. Similar harassment patterns targeting veterans involved in ethics violations or whistleblower cases. We'd like your consultation on Operation Clean Sweep. 6 months later, I'm standing in my backyard watching 47 families enjoying barbecue, celebrating Operation Clean Sweep's completion. The national investigation led us to military contractor Patriot Defense Solutions, whose CEO had been systematically targeting veterans who'd exposed Pentagon contract corruption. 7 years of domestic terrorism disguised as property disputes, hundreds of families harassed across 12 states. The takedown was complete justice. The contractor got 25 years for domestic terrorism. His company dissolved with assets seized for victim compensation. 3 other conspirators received 10 to 15-year sentences. But the personal victory that meant most was watching our neighborhood transform from fear and division into genuine community. Laura Hall elected new HOA president on Transparency platform. Alex Morrison became treasurer with forensic accounting background, preventing future embezzlement. The fence that started this nightmare now stands at exactly 9 feet tall, with Olivia's organic garden visible through decorative sections. Children stop by after school to learn sustainable gardening. What was once a symbol of oppression became a gathering place for community events. My PTSD symptoms improved dramatically through having a mission combining family protection with community service. Neighbors regularly ask for security consultations and self-defense classes, giving me civilian mission using military skills for protection rather than destruction. The recognition from federal law enforcement and veteran organizations was gratifying, but what mattered was the custom plaque Laura presented. Community Defender. Some heroes don't wear uniforms in civilian life. They wear cargo shorts and protect neighborhoods. The reputation that spread through veteran networks opened opportunities helping other families facing similar harassment. Media attention led to consulting work with communities dealing with HOA corruption, speaking engagements about recognizing systematic harassment, advisory positions with veteran organizations. But the moment representing perfect justice happened when our newest neighbors moved in last month. A young couple approached me during our community barbecue, nervous about addressing the neighborhood hero. We heard there are regulations about fence heights and wanted to make sure we complied with community standards, the husband stammered. The entire 200-person gathering went silent, everyone turning to watch my response. The poor guy's face went white realizing he'd captured everyone's attention. Then Laura started laughing, followed by Alex. Then the whole crowd erupted in applause. Actually, I said, grinning, you should talk to our HOA president about what kind of fence would best serve your needs. Around here, we believe property improvements should enhance the community, not create problems for neighbors. That evening, as Olivia and I cleaned up from the barbecue, she asked, so much for quiet suburban life. Any regrets about how everything turned out? I looked around our backyard, at the fence that started everything, at the garden that became community gathering place, at neighbors who transformed from strangers into family through shared adversity. Sometimes you have to fight for peace, I told her. But now we've earned it. The final irony that makes this story perfect. Catherine's revenge operation cost her everything she tried to preserve from her marriage to Marcus Baker. Money, status, connections, purpose, freedom. Meanwhile, her attempt to destroy my civilian life gave me exactly what 20 years of military service had prepared me for. Meaningful mission protecting people who couldn't protect themselves, community that valued my skills, and satisfaction knowing sometimes the good guys actually win. The final shot I want to leave you with is the view from my garage, where tactical gear hangs beside garden tools and family bicycles. Perfect integration of warrior and civilian life I'd never believed possible until Catherine Baker's hatred forced me to discover it. Sometimes the most dangerous person in the neighborhood is the suburban dad who just wants to grill burgers and grow tomatoes with his family. And sometimes that's exactly what the neighborhood needs to stay safe and free from people who mistake kindness for weakness.